Okay, now we can start to do the real stuff. I would like to start from inputs and outputs. In lecture 1, we have told that the programs are just a processor for inputs and outputs. You give some inputs and computer give you outputs. So let me just introduce that part first, how to give inputs and how to give outputs. Okay, printf, you have seen it a lot in previous examples, and let me just introduce this function first. Printf is a work function in charge of putting your outputs to the screen. It has been declared in the stdio.h. So you have to include that stdio.h, or you have to sign a contract with that header file before use. Printf, to use a printf is like this. You have to give a format string, then followed by a comma, and you put the parameters using printf in the point of view here. For every program, most of the thing actually has been done in the backstage. That's what the computer can see here. You have a workspace and you have a lot of cars there, and you have a main function as the CEO, supervising the things going on there. So once the CEO called the printf worker, which has already signed a contract, the worker, well, what the worker will do is he will copy the content of a car to the screen like this. So let me explain with example that we are using the printf without parameters. That's the easiest thing. That's what we have done in the hello world. This is the way to use it. You use printf to let the program know you're calling this function or calling this worker. However, what you want to output is a string. Notice that string start with our quotation mark, and then the content of the string end with another quotation mark. Those quotation marks have to appear in pairs. So that's very important, remember that. So by this, inside the computer, what the computer is doing is like when they see the first quotation mark, the operator know that he's going to prepare a new punchable car to store a string. Then, and here it is. Then the content will be written or punched into that car, and then when it's ending, the computer knows the string is ending. Then we reach to this semicolon. Semicolon is telling the computer that this is the end of this line of instruction. You can execute that. So so every line of your statement should end with a semicolon in most of the cases. So when the printf when the program reaches here, the instruction will be executed. In that case, the printf function will do the real stuff by copying the content of this car. It's a string to the screen like this. So that's the way printf without parameter is doing. Okay, let's go some code. You can try this. These are several examples. Calling printf without the without parameters. If you try it in your command line or somewhere else, you should see something like a rectangle composed of stars like this. So up to here, what do you see? As I explained, it's should be something like a rectangle like this. So this is what happening here, because the printf is putting your string, is copying your string to screen. Actually, what the printf is doing is like it's going to, your screen is like this Lego base plate. There are several blocks there, one by one, and the printf will, worker will copy that one character to one block like this, here to here, here to here, and one by one. And later when you reach this backslash n, it's a very special character. It's not printable because it has been reserved. It's actually telling the printf that you should switch to a new line, start a new line. That's the n means a new line. So the printf, when after meeting the backslash n, then it goes to here and start a new line of code of copying this character to this block. And there are several spaces there which will also take a space or one or take blocks there, so they will be copied to the screen as well. Then you reach another star, which reach another backslash n star. That means to start a new line. Then it goes to here, one by one copy, and repeating this for all the strings you have there. Then you will see this is our rectangle. So I hope you really understand this. So in this case, can you print a triangle? Here are some tips. You can do it by yourself. Now I guess you can understand what this example does. We show several times to paint a picture. This is actually using the printf without parameters a lot with several times. For each of them, you could see it's just a string, each of the line. Start with this quotation mark and end with this quotation mark. It's all the same. So this is what this example does. It's actually using these different characters to form a page.